What needs to happen, I think that we've come a long way with mental health, but we have a long way to go. And what needs to happen is...
Where would you say, how far have we come? When you say we've come a long way.
Well, we acknowledge it, but it was not acknowledged in the way that it is now, but I think it needs to be talked about more. I think the more things are talked about, the more comfortable we are, and the more we can understand them.
I was feeling this anxiety during the summer, and I felt like I was failing, and I felt like I wasn't being as influential and making as much progress. And whenever I feel depression, whenever I feel those anxieties, because see, depression, it wants to wrap around you like a mummy and begin to kind of like a rope and begin to wrap you up. And the next thing you know, you're in your room and you're isolating and you're in your mind and you feel like all your failure. You build things that aren't really built in reality. They're your fears and your struggles, and you're just totally blah. You don't want to get out of bed. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about.
No, it needs to be talked about, because it's not just this generation. It's people are realizing more and more that it's an issue. Right. And the more we talk about it, the easier it is for people to be honest with themselves and get the help they need.
The most important thing is when you are super down, outside of finding that emotional reasoning for where you are, is to start getting momentum. Because with momentum comes hope. With momentum comes motivation. With momentum comes that feeling that there's a reason for tomorrow. When you're in that place, like, know that where you're at, it is okay that you're there, and now you're gonna need help, and now you're gonna have to set up some daily practices just every day, win a little bit. Not like win your dreams, not like crush through goals, not like be a badass, not like, no, just momentum, man. Win a little bit.
How do people get unstuck?
Yeah, unstuck is its own art form, and everyone it's a little bit different. For me in my life, I think it had to do with recognizing that I was suffering. I had to start to realize that nothing in my body was feeling good. It wasn't working. And so I had to make changes. And it wasn't even like something I had to convince myself to do. It was more like I was really drawn to finding relief. And so with my patients, I usually try to find that kernel of, you're suffering here, and that's why we're going to make changes so that you're not suffering. And like we said before, each incremental improvement in how someone feels makes it easier to make the next shift.
When you feel it, and maybe you're in the middle of it, and maybe it's uncomfortable, but when you feel that thing called depression, and when the collars are more bland and you don't want to get out of bed, you've got to roll out of bed, man, and you've got to make yourself go. Get out of the house. Go surround yourself with somebody. And I know you don't want to feel like it. I know you don't feel like it sometimes, man, but you got to. Don't, because if you don't, you isolate, you stay in your room, you start building all of these stories, and what happens is here's a principle of life, man. What you focus on, what you think about is always going to grow. Whatever you put your time and your attention into is always going to grow. And so when you're looking in your room and you're isolating and you're looking in the mirror in your room and you're isolating yourself, what you think of is going to grow. And so when you isolate yourself and you're kind of building these stories about your struggles and your hurts and your pains and your past, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you wonder why it seems like it's this giant that you can't slay, or this monster or this demon that you can't get rid of, because you're always focusing on it.
I don't want to ever be flippant with the advice to people who are dealing with that situation outside of get some help, get some momentum, and be okay if that momentum is really small, because it will build. Trust that that momentum builds, and trust those gloomy and bad, dark days. Trust that those are going to be there. They'll get less and less and less as you learn how to cope, but they're going to be there. And so when they're there, it's one of outside of teaching people to bring the joy in my life, I teach people to honor the struggle. Honor the difficulty. When we honor the struggle instead of hate the struggle, we can really achieve extraordinary things, because our mindset's in the right place. As soon as you honor the struggle, you accept that, oh, of course, there should be struggle here. I should honor this process. When you go to the gym to work out, you honor that this is going to be hard, and honor that process of getting better. And the more that you bring honor to it, the more your psyche builds with strength, and you get a little bit of that esteem back, because you see yourself engaging something versus avoiding it and running away. You see yourself connecting with something and giving it reverence. Like, I have reverence for the difficulties of life. They may be better. So I don't want a friction-free life. I'm not interested in it. You know, I like to say sometimes that, you know, the journey to greatness begins the moment that our, you know, deep desires for comfort and ease are overpowered by our desires to connect and contribute.
What was motivating that? Was it a positive feeling of, I have the sense that I can get better, or was it like, this hurts so much, I just need something?
It was, that's a great question. So for me, what my analysis was very much about, I mean, I was just in denial for a long time about, like, I refused to accept that I was scared or lonely or sad. I mean, even intellectually I would, but emotionally I wouldn't connect with that, right? The difference between me now and me, let's say 10 years ago in this realm, is that now the emotions don't go away, right? So anyone who tells you that they have a way for you to control your emotions or get rid of your emotions is either lying to themselves or lying to you and trying to sell you something. So it's not that any of this goes away. It's that now I recognize it. Like I recognize the feeling, I accept that it's there, and I can, like, not let it overwhelm me or let it control me without understanding. For most people, the only way you can get past this stuff is to bring it out, let it have its voice.
Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, but here's what I've learned. Now these days, anytime that I feel that inkling of a thought of depression and that thing trying to wrap its way around me to hold me hostage and to paralyze it, I've learned to punch it in the face, man. And what I mean by that, every time I begin to feel it, I'm the first one that's gonna get on my phone. I'm gonna call my friends and say, hey man, I gotta get out of the house. I need to go do something. I don't let depression wrap around me and tie me up. Anytime I feel it, and even though I don't want to sometimes, and even though it takes everything in my power to hit the send button and to talk to somebody and to say I'm struggling, I refuse to stay in my room and let my mind war against me. You've got to be willing, man.